G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Arsehole? With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get right into it. Am I the arsehole for saying that the reason why I don't want to visit my mum is because it hurts to see her happy with her new family? So my mum, 37 female, and I were deeply close. She used to say that I'm her joy and pride. I'll turn 17 tomorrow, and I've decided that I no longer want to go to her house to visit her and her real family. For some context, my mum had an affair when I was 9. She left my dad because she fell in love with a married man, and the man ended up divorcing his wife and moving in with my mum. My dad had custody of me, and my mum was granted to have me on weekends. She seemed happy to have me, and always treated me well. Her husband treated me well too, though sometimes he tried to make me respect him as a dad. As my mum's husband's ex-wife wanted nothing to do with the 3 kids they had, 18 male, 17 female, and 12 male, my mum started spending more time because her husband had full custody. She sometimes acted more like a mother to them than to me. She would pick them up from school, never did that for me. She celebrated their birthdays while she was just a guest at mine, and it was hard because it felt like I was gradually losing my mum, and during her custodial, she was great, but she never tried beyond the minimum when it wasn't her time. I had a swimming competition in 2019. It was at school, but she didn't show up because it was on Wednesday, and her stepdaughter had an activity at school. She tried to compensate for it later, but the scar was left there. It isn't healthy for me to be at her house. I suffer a lot when I'm there because they get to have my mum 100% and I only have weekends. They also have a 5-year-old son. It sucks seeing them play the happy family, and even if her husband has treated me good, I see nothing but the man that destroyed my home and hurt my dad. This last weekend, I went to her house and told her that it's not healthy for me to be at her house because it hurts me to see her that happy, and I can't. I also talked about the times that she missed events because it wasn't her custodial time, so I let her know that I am never coming back. I also said that as long as she's in this family, we can't have a relationship, because I'm afraid that they'll make her choose, and she'll pick them over me like other times, and I'll be hurt again. She started crying and said that it wasn't the message that she was trying to send. She said that she never meant to make me feel cast aside and that she was picking them over me. She said that I can't do that because I'm her baby, but I told her that that isn't her choice to make. She's called me every day, saying that she hasn't been capable of sleeping and wants to see me to talk. Her husband and kids are calling me the arsehole for making her feel guilty for something unintentional. But I made my choice, and my dad has my back. Even if you sometimes need the fire, you've got to keep your distance for your safety and not get burnt. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. I told my mum that I won't go back to her house because it sucks seeing her happy. And I think, good on you, OP, more power to you. I definitely get the vibes here that she is moving on from you and not making you a priority, especially when she only has you every weekend or so. Like, you're already an insignificant part of her life in comparison to the family she has and the new family that she's creating with her husband with the new 5-year-old child. I do get that it's hard to juggle responsibilities and share the love, but to just be cast out like you are in this situation, that can't feel good. And you're almost 18, you have more than enough reason to just move on and build your own life away from her. I wish you all the best, and I don't think you're the arsehole for that. And now in the comments, not the arsehole. She made her choice, repeatedly, to pick her stepchildren over you. You cannot control what others do, but you can control your response to those actions. All the best. I have no time for cheats, so I have less than 0 sympathy for your mother and her new husband. This. Sure, it's a balancing act when you want to be there both for your biological children and your stepchildren, but when the balance always goes to the same side, you made your choice. I get it. Their mum is a big arsehole as well, dumping the children because the husband had an affair, like, that's cruel. But she should have been there for OP as well. Granted, we only see OP's side, but it looks like she sacrificed a lot of the time that she could have had with OP with spending time with stepchildren, and it seems like she never had alone time with OP, nor that she tried to include OP in activities or just family time with the stepchildren. OP was on the outside, looking in and seeing how everyone was having fun, but OP wasn't really included. It must have really sucked to see the mum go all the way and working to get amazing birthday celebrations for the children, but not doing the same for OP, nor that she was ever there to witness OP's achievements. I do believe that the mum might have done all of this unintentionally, but unintentional or not, her actions have hurt her child. She should really reflect hard about it. Her actions were louder than words. Perhaps the bond between OP and their mum can be there again, though it will never be the same. But she needs to do the hard work, and she needs to respect OP's feelings and timeline, if OP ever decides to increase contact with her. And ironically, while stepchildren's mother gets criticized for dumping her children, OP's mother turns around and does sort of the same thing to him, just not as blatantly. Can I just point out that mum guilt is a thing? I can play with my kids all day, and then lay in bed at night kicking myself for not just playing with them more instead of needing a break and reading some news on my phone, or upset at myself because I snapped at them just to skip the 90 minutes of build-up and just tell them the funny joke that you heard in your show. I will lay in bed and plan out how I can be a better mother in the morning, the things I want to be better at, and how I can maybe do that. OP's mum has had 8 years that she could have reflected on her choices and actions. Almost 3,000 nights that she could have laid in bed planning on how to be a better mum. Showing us literally the bare minimum, and she wasn't even able to hack that. And now, onto the update. My mum promised to change. So I didn't expect so many people wanting an update. That's why I didn't post one before. Since I first posted here, a lot of things have happened. I posted a day before my birthday. The next day, my mum came alone. She told me she wanted to talk, and we basically ended up spending the whole day together. Her stepkids and husband called me to apologize for what they said to me. My mum said that she wants to respect my wishes of not going to her home, but she wants to spend time with me. So we meet every weekend at my grandparents', and we spend time there. She usually takes Max with her 5-year-old, but not the stepkids. I have talked to them, and we have a kind of a good relationship. Her husband also visited me to talk and apologize for how they made me feel. He said he loves me, and he never meant to make me feel like it. My dad and his fiancée have told me to give my mum a chance, since this is the first time she knows how I feel. I'm not going to her house yet. I don't know if I ever will, but whatever happens, I know she loves me, and I love her. I don't know if I'll ever trust her again, but I can't fully deprive myself of a relationship with her. My mum has promised to change and make me feel better. And now in the comments, all I can say is don't feel obliged to have any relationship with your mum, because she was selfish and her actions were selfish too. They think they can sweep the affair under the rug, but that's not what happens in the real world. Your emotions and feelings are valid. She had a choice, and she chose her real family over you. Yet she is now only doing the bare minimum, like visiting you on weekends. She needs to know that her actions have consequences, and so does your stepdad. These two people are especially selfish and possibly ruined 2 families. My ex did more or less the same thing. Walked away, wanted minimal custody, 50-50 is the usual split here, but he only wanted every second weekend. It suited him and the new missus for about 8 years, and then suddenly our 3 were growing up and growing away from them. Their whole lives were with me. School, sports, mates, extended fam. They didn't want to go to their dad so much. That's what happens. My kids aren't sad about it, but their dad is. Same with my dad. Wanted minimal contact with us, only really called on birthdays. After my grandma forced him, we got older, and now he complains about how he feels that we don't love him enough, and says that we should call and try to visit every weekend. My step-siblings also try to talk us into talking to him more since he's such a great dad. I feel so sorry for OP. It seems that us kids of divorced parents always end up taking the worst part of it because your whole life is altered due to someone else's decision. May OP find happiness and heal. I informed my kids that they come first and will always come first. I grew them, I gave birth to them, I fed them and cared for them when they were helpless potato beings, and they are my absolute priority no matter what happens between their father and me. For my kids, it was a choice between staying in a terribly dangerous situation or taking a risk to get us out of it, and ultimately, I made a decision that it's better to have come from a broken home than to live in one. I can't imagine a situation in which I'd ever love anyone else more than these incredible human beings that blessed me with their presence. I feel for this kid so much. My parents tried their best, and my parents did irreparable harm to me are not mutually exclusive statements. This is why I won't have kids. I know that my best won't be good enough. No one knows you better than yourself. There will always be some asshat that will give you crap for your stance, but screw them. I'm in my 30s now, and I'm super glad that I never got married or had kids. I was in no place or position to be a good father or a good spouse in my 20s. Now, I'm doing much, much better. So who knows? But I'll never regret not bringing some poor kid into this world that would have had a walking disaster for a father. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for moving and taking my cat with me?" So, as the title says, I, female 24, moved out from my dad's house. He's been very against it from the start, but it makes sense for me. I graduated, have a stable job, and I pay rent and bills anyway, might as well have the peace and quiet that goes with it. My dad disagrees. For context, I didn't grow up with him, and me living with him has only been a thing for the past 4 years, in which he didn't take any particular interest in me as a person. We would go for over a week without speaking at times, because he just wasn't responding whenever I tried to initiate conversations. The cat is 3 years old, and he's a good boy. He was a bit stressed during the move, but he's okay, and he's settling in. My dad and his girlfriend keep calling and messaging me, telling me what a horrible mistake I'm making, and how upset they are because of this. I've spent what should have been a pretty happy time crying, and feeling upset and guilty. Am I the asshole? I feel horrible, but they won't stop even after I've explained how bad it makes me feel, and that being independent is something I've wanted for a long time. And now in the comments, not the asshole. Why are they having such a freak out about this? Like, it's sweet, I guess, that they miss you, but trying to guilt trip you into moving back is an asshole move on their part, especially since they seem to be trying to guilt you in order to assuage his guilt and loneliness. And OP replies, I don't really know. I assumed moving out at my age was pretty normal, if a little late. Not the asshole. How sad that your dad has chosen to miss out on a relationship with you. I'm betting that dad and girlfriend are upping the pressure and manipulation because they miss the rent money from you. Please don't think that you have to take on guilt from him and her. He chose not to interact with you for a week when you were trying to talk to him, doing this repeatedly. Shame on him. Maybe what you're feeling sorrow about is that you didn't get the dad that you needed, one that was there for you, to share milestones with you, happiness, and harder times. I'm so sorry that you're going through this, and I'm wishing you well. And OP says, thank you. This one brought me to tears. Not the asshole. But I do have to say, take a deep breath and let go of the guilt. There is nothing here to be guilty about. You are an adult, and you and Kitty are out living your lives. I'm curious though, if you offered some sort of service to them while you were living there, did you help clean or maybe cook a great meal? That could be what they are missing, having that free help at their house. And OP says, I was paying for stuff like Wi-Fi, Netflix, TV, and I was cleaning regularly, yeah. I'm not good enough at cooking to say anyone would miss me for that, but I'd hate to think that that's the only reason my dad would miss me. Aha, that is what they're missing. For some reason, cleaning kitchens gives me joy. So when I moved out, my dad was pissed that he'd have to clean the kitchen, lol. Not the asshole. If you are not having a relationship with them anyway, living alone is better in some respects, and it's apparent from your post that you are not having a relationship with your father, but it sounds like you paid a portion of the rent. Keep repeating that you want them to stop talking about it. Take your cat, relax, and enjoy your space. And now, onto the update. I'll go straight into it. Things sort of calmed down after the first month, and I didn't hear anything from my dad for a while. I settled in, and my job is going great. Then I started getting calls and invites to lunch, and my dad kept mentioning their upcoming holiday and all of the things they plan to do. About a week before he left, he asked me for money, and I stupidly gave it because he's my dad and I'm a bit of a pushover. After that, I didn't get a single sign of life from him until now, when he asked for money for something else that he wants to buy. Now, the holiday money was what was left over from the savings I had when I moved, and it was about what I pay in rent for 1 month. This time, I told him that I don't have any money because I don't. That was it. My job pays okay, but I had things come up, so I haven't been able to start saving again. And I took a weekend trip to a different city, my first holiday in about 4 years, which wasn't expensive, but it would have been money saved otherwise. This has started a new wave of disagreements and outrage at me having moved, as if I hadn't, I would have had the money to help and this wouldn't be a problem. I would understand if this was help with something like rent or something vital, but this is not. So I'm taking a step back and not responding to attempts at contact for the time being. The commenters on my first post were sadly right, and ultimately it was never about the cat, who is happy and well cared for with me. It's upsetting that things are turning out this way, but it's what it is and I can only move on, I guess. And now in the comments, yup, I figured that's the only reason that they were so angry about her leaving. It's really sad, but she's much better off in the long run. OP seems to be very soft-hearted. For her sake, I wish she would go low contact or no contact with her dad. Dad and girlfriend are extremely selfish people who do not have OP's best interests at heart. I get the feeling that they'll go no contact with her as soon as they realize she's not going to throw money at them anymore. All she really has to do is reframe the first bit of cash that she gave them as a loan. I imagine that they won't be too keen on talking to her after that. If I was OP, I would start considering just moving states altogether. The shitty dad isn't getting any younger, and he sounds like the type that would have zero retirement plan and demand to be taken care of. No need to inconvenience herself. She can just block him on her phone and email. He isn't going to make any special effort. Imagine being that much of a cockwomble that the only reason to have your kid around is to exploit them, then to manipulate them when they leave. Imagine being so stupid that you can't be polite or have a conversation with someone who is paying your bills and cleaning your house. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my sister her baggage isn't my issue?" So I, 28 female, am a single mum of 3 kids. I met my daughter when I was 22, volunteering in a mentor program. Her bio mom asked that I take her in for a while when she was having a hard time, so I agreed to become her foster parent. And then 2 years ago, we got the paperwork together for me to become her official guardian. I plan to adopt when kiddo is old enough to tell me that that's what she wants. Last year, I got a phone call from my daughter's caseworker, informing me that her bio mom had another child, and she wanted him to be placed with his sister, so I took him in too. I didn't plan on having any other children, but I met someone, and it didn't last, and long story short, is that I have a first grader, a toddler, and I'm 25 weeks. My sister Bree, 34 female, always loved hanging with my kids whenever she had the spare time. She's been struggling with infertility since she and her husband started trying for a baby 8 years ago, and I can tell how badly she wants to be a mom. I really do hope that someday it does happen for her, because it's all she's ever wanted. Since I announced my pregnancy though, Bree has been kind of distant. I thought that maybe it was just life stuff or I was being overly emotional due to hormones, so I didn't really press her on it or anything, and went about things as usual. Our mum invited us all to dinner the other night, so I got my kiddos settled with a sitter and drove to my mum's place. Dinner went mostly fine, but Bree kept giving me looks every time someone brought up the pregnancy, and towards the end of the night, she asked why I even adopted 2 children if I clearly had no trouble making a baby of my own. I told her that when I started fostering my oldest, it was just to give her a safe place to live until her mums could get things sorted. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and now her brother is with me too. I love my children, and I'm happy to be their mom, but it wasn't my intention in the beginning to adopt via foster care. I wanted their bio mom to work things out, and my heart genuinely hurts for her because she wasn't able to do that. Bree then said that it feels like I'm rubbing my kids in her face. She told me that it isn't fair that I basically had 2 kids fall into my lap, and then decided to be reckless and get knocked up too. all while she's been trying for years to have a child with no luck. She said that it's cruel and unfair that I took 2 babies from the system that could have gone to parents who deserved them, all while being able to easily have one of my own. I ended up telling her that while it sucks, it's not my fault that some people want kids and can't have them, and that her infertility baggage isn't really my issue. Our mother asked me to leave, and the next day called me to tell me that I was being unnecessarily cruel to my sister when I know what she's been going through. Now I don't know if what I said was out of line. You were literally so nice to her in the way that you responded to her attacks, and somehow you're the asshole for defending yourself? Your sister is spitting straight venom at you. She is trying to hurt your feelings and make you feel terrible. How are you suddenly the bad guy for defending yourself and trying to be rational about the whole situation? Sorry sis, but newsflash, life isn't fair, and OP having 2 kids that she didn't make on her own, that fell into her lap, quote unquote, isn't a personal attack on you, sis. It's anything but. The fact that she can twist the reality of the situation with OP and the 2 foster children that they have into that disgusting attack just kinda sickens me. Not the asshole for defending yourself, OP. Good job. Now in the comments, not the asshole. Quote, she asked why I even adopted 2 children if I clearly had no trouble making a baby of my own. Why haven't you adopted any children since you clearly have trouble making a baby of your own, sis? I mean, that would be unnecessarily harsh, but I have zero sympathy for people who act like the universe owes them a biological child. As an adoptee, I kind of wish this had been said. While children in the system aren't exactly an infinite thing, there are so many who need homes, especially sibling placements. But something tells me that she's obsessed with the idea of a baby, and not actually with providing a safe home to children, and the fact that she's weaponizing OP's children against her is effing gross. Not the asshole OP. Oh yeah, and just imagine how she would drop any adopted/foster kid once she does get pregnant. I wish that on no one. Or just make them the unpaid babysitter. I've heard of that happening way too many times. Not the asshole. Your sister is being jealous and petty, and it's misdirected. You don't have to deal with it, and what you said was right. Congratulations on your 3 children. You sound like a great mother. This right here. I would also add that the 2 kids fell into your lap because instead of being wrapped up in your own life and problems, you were out in the world trying to help people who were less fortunate and make their lives a little better. So many of us could take a lesson from that, including perhaps your sister. Not the asshole. If she really cared about children in foster care, she would become a foster parent herself. This is purely about her. What are you supposed to do? Stop making fertility choices just because it makes her feel bad? Yup. Mad at her for 2 kids that fell onto her lap while still making zero effort to help all those foster kids in need. Major asshole. And now onto the update. Hi. I know it's only been a few days since I last posted, but some things happened, and I've decided to rinse my hands of the situation, so I thought I'd provide you all with an update. First though, I do want to thank you for your feedback. It was nice to be reassured that I wasn't being overly mean, as that's what I was mainly worried about. I do really love my sister, and I don't ever want to cause her to hurt, even when we are fighting. So my mum was supposed to go to my anatomy scan with me yesterday, but she called me and told me that because Bree is still upset, to the point of not speaking to me, she didn't want to make it any worse by going to the appointment. I took my toddler with me instead, and he was great company. The nurses absolutely loved having him there, and it was easier not to think about the fact that my mum ditched me when I had him to focus on. Mum did text me later wanting to know if the baby was a boy or a girl, and if everything went all right. But I still haven't texted her back because I feel like I'd just end up getting even more hurt about the situation. I don't think I'm going to try any more with either of them. I wanted to in the beginning because I think Bree just needs to talk to a therapist and sort her feelings out, but our mum deciding to skip out on this appointment with me just kinda sealed the deal. I sent Bree's husband a message, since Bree has blocked me, telling them both that I hope things work out for them in all the ways they deserve, and that I am genuinely sorry if I hurt her. I recommended talking to a therapist or support group of some kind, and said that when Bree has worked through all of the things that she needs to work through, she's more than welcome to call me. My dad found out about the argument, and he's offered to come drive down with his wife to stay with me when the baby gets here, since the plan was originally for my mum to do it instead. I told him I'd let him know once it gets closer to the actual date, but I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. I'm not going to focus too much on Bree and my mum right now. My kiddos are my priority, and I think what's best is to keep them away from the drama, so I don't plan on allowing Bree or my mum around for a while. Thank you guys again so much for all of your responses, as it was really helpful to have outside perspectives on the situation. It definitely helped me figure out a few things for myself. And edit, baby number 3 is a little boy. You are all so sweet for asking. Edit number 2, some people have been asking, so I wanted to clarify a few things. My kid's bio mum and I had initially agreed upon caring for the oldest without any outside court involvement, just an agreement between the two of us. 2 years after the initial agreement, I was 24, and it was clear that my daughter would be staying with me for much longer than originally intended. So then bio mum and I did mutually decide on court involvement to make this situation official. Neither of the kids were infants when I was granted custody of them, and my toddler hung out with the nurses at the front of the clinic while I was in the actual appointment. Lol. He was too little to be allowed back. And now in the comments, I feel like your mum is making excuses for your sister's bad behavior, and in the process, is reinforcing said behavior. I think you made the best call that you can for yourself and children. Just be sure to set good boundaries and be ready to reinforce them, because once the dust settles, someone may attempt to test them. And not the asshole, this time or last. It really sounds like Bree is the golden child and OP is the scapegoat, and it's always been this way. It would explain a lot of the entitlement of Bree, and why OP would ask if she was the asshole in the first place, since scapegoats are often made to believe everything is their fault. It's probably more that Bree is currently the actively hurting child, and the mother went into full-throttle mum mode to protect the daughter that she feels needs it more at the moment. But I totally agree that Bree's reactions were inappropriate, and that she really should go to therapy to get the help that she needs, especially before she even considers adopting, or they will weed her out before they even start the process. And big kudos to OP for getting involved in the mentoring program, and stepping up for her daughter and son. Someone replies to that, then why didn't motherly instincts kick in to support the daughter who is vulnerable and pregnant? I don't think it's about motherly instincts as much as it is about the golden child. Not the arsehole. Do not reply to your mum. Let her sit and wonder. When she asks again, reply, if you really wanted to know, you would have shown up. And block her for a while. I'm glad you have your dad for help. As a social worker who works with foster kids, your family, you and your kids, sound wonderful, and you sound like an awesome mom. You sound like the kind of person who adopts for the right reason. But I have to say, your sister's comment that you took kids from the system is offensive AF. Children are not prizes, and are not possessions to be bought or won. People are not entitled to them. Maybe your sister didn't mean it like that, and she's just grieving for the idea of the perfect family she had, but it sounds like she needs therapy. And OP replies, thank you so much, both for the work you do and for the compliment. I really appreciate it. And I completely agree. I hope that one day she realizes how harmful it is to view kids in the system as tools to build a family rather than as children in need of safety and care. I wish more people centered kids in conversations of adoption instead of centering the adults who are seeking to adopt them. Wow, OP. You're like shockingly well adjusted. I think if someone asked me to be a parent at 22, I'd have said yes, and then imploded. And OP replies, it definitely wasn't easy in the beginning, lol. There was a lot of trial and error, but I managed. In the end, I definitely consider it to be one of the best choices I ever made. I can't imagine my life without my kiddos in it. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.